Welcome to BIM's Week Keynote, How I Fell Back in Love with Science with Howard Forbes. I'm Leslie Townsell, COO of BIMS, and today's keynote will be moderated by Keiko Wilkins, a second-year PhD student at the University of Hawaii, Manoa, within the Marine Biology Graduate Program. Her dissertation research focuses on the effects of microplastic ingestion on coral reef ecosystems. In her free time, she enjoys snorkeling and underwater photography. I'll pass it over to you, Keiko.
Thank you, and welcome everybody to Black and Marine Science Week 2. I'm Keiko Wilkins, and today's keynote speaker will be Howard Forbes. So Howard Forbes is a native Virgin Islander from the island of St. Croix. From a young age, he had a strong affinity for science, though he never really considered then what a career in science could look like for him. He thought he would become a pharmacist or a chef. However, while those careers could have been promising, some experiences certainly had a greater impact on his career outlook than others. His parents have always assured him that it's okay to change directions, and if it probably weren't for his summer employment with the National Park Service's Youth Conservation Corps, he would not have had the key exposure necessary to see himself as a marine scientist. Upon graduating high school, he set out to further his education and enrolled at the University of the Virgin Islands in 2006. A lot happened during his time there, but fast forward a few years, he now holds both a Bachelor's of Science degree in biology and a Master's in Marine and Environmental Sciences from the University of the Virgin Islands. And he has been serving as the extension coordinator for the Virgin Islands Marine Advisory Service for the last 7 years. In this role, he wears many hats, but spends most of his time managing a variety of programs that focus on the preservation of our natural resources, aquatics training, and youth and educator development. One such program, the Youth Ocean Explorers Summer Program, which since its inception in 2016 has provided experiential learning opportunities for USVI youth to explore nature, better understand the diversity of life on land and underwater, develop a sense of belonging within STEM, and acquire new skills such as scuba diving training. While his students probably spend more time in the water now than he does, seeing them overcome this generational fear of our oceans is for him one of his greatest joys, taking the quote, "You can't be what you can't see," to heart. He is proud to be a guiding light to inspire the next generation of ocean scientists. Now I will pass it on to Howard Forbes.
Thank you, Keiko, and good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. And so with that, I'm happy to share my journey on how I kind of fell back in love with science. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can get this PowerPoint presentation up. All right. Just a second. All right, so my presentation is now up and loaded. All right, looks like I clicked ahead too far. All right, so on this first slide here, you can see this is me. So on the left, that's 4-year-old me. I'm at the beach, and I apologize, the image is a little bit blurry, but I had to beg my mother to try and find a decent photo of when I was a child. But basically, so this photo, like I said, 4-year-old me shows you what I was doing when I was a child back in the ocean. And so you could see the ocean is behind me. And little did I know back then that the ocean would become such an integral part to my everyday life and to my career. I can say, growing up, even though I am a Virgin Islander and we are surrounded by water, my connection to the ocean really wasn't that involved. During the Easter holidays, my family and I would spend time camping at our local beach. And so that is where I actually first learned to swim. And so I really credit, that experience, that exposure to the marine environment at such an early age to really what kind of got me interested and motivated within the realm of science, let alone just marine science as well. Now, when I say things like that, I also try to think about, as I was preparing for this presentation today or this keynote, how exactly did I really fall in love with science? Yes, I got exposed to it at an early age, But honestly, I think a lot of it is, it boils down to how science was communicated to me back then when I was a child. That's what really got me motivated and interested in science. So what really stood out for me, what those vivid and bright memories that I have, the really bright ones, those are when I was in elementary school. That's the time when science was engaging. That's when science was fun. That's when science was all about discovery and exploration. And so the quote that I have on the screen, I swear Benjamin Franklin is probably rolling in his grave. His ears are ringing all the time because I use this quote over and over again, but it rings true in terms of how I feel like science has really played an integral role to my life. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. But if you involve me, I'll learn. And so it's the use of the hands-on activities that really got me motivated and interested in science. I can remember, back in elementary school, I got my hands dirty by working in a compost pile. We had a composting project, and for a lot of students, that might be something that's disgusting and gross. But for me, that was fun. I got to really see, the science behind why we're doing this. And so that really got me motivated, that got me excited. And I really think, that pathway, that, being able to communicate science effectively at that age in my life, that was what really got me. However, and this is the but part, by the time I got to middle and high school, all of that went out the window. So what used to be, science where it was fun and it was engaging and it was all about exploration and discovery, all of that went out the window by the time I got to middle and high school. And I see people shaking heads. You can attest to that. A lot of people agree with that. All of that was replaced with memorization and regurgitation, which isn't fun, And I'm not saying that that is an improper way to learning or teaching, but for me, that is when I can specifically pinpoint when I lost interest in science. I fell out of love with science. And it's because of how it was communicated to me. No longer was I involved in doing the hands-on things. It was read a textbook, read a couple of chapters, and then do the activities at the end of the chapter, and that's it. And that's not a really great way to get students involved. For me, I can say that. I definitely lost interest in science at that age. Unfortunately, thankfully, if it weren't for a couple of really great educators that kind of went above and beyond to kind of bring that spark back into the classroom, I would have completely lost interest in science altogether. And it's important to note that for a lot of individuals, by the time those doors are shut, they don't reopen. So for some people, once they lose interest in science, that's it. I'm done. I'm never coming back again. Thankfully, though, because of those few educators who brought, and I'm laughing because I'm reminding myself of what they did. They brought in livers and brains and hearts and all of these organs from diseased animals, or that we could actually dissect. That was the hands-on piece that was missing. And so because of that, I remained engaged in science enough to feel like, yeah, I'm still there, but, I'm still kind of on the fence. But, thankfully, I stayed committed. And I always want to, emphasize the fact that, I excelled in science. And I can do it. I love science. It's great. But because of how it was communicated, things just kind of, they felt that things were missing for me. But because of all of these opportunities, I kind of was able to take advantage of a few things that kind of came along my way. And one of those things in particular was, an opportunity to work with the National Park Service through their Youth Conservation Corps program. And so through this program, I was able to help with the management of the 3 national parks on St. Croix that most people don't really know there are even 3 national parks on St. Croix. And so that, meant maintaining the trails, doing some beach cleanups, painting the historical forts. I mean, there are a lot of things that, we were involved in, but it was a lot of that informal education that really got me motivated. I got to see nature in a new way. But the most important thing here was that with the National Park Service through this program, this was when I first got my own snorkel set. And this wasn't like a cheap brand that they just picked up from a department store. they literally took us to an actual dive shop, and we got to handpick our own mask, our own snorkel, our own fins. So now I'm legit, like I got my own stuff, I got my own gear, so I can actually go out snorkeling now. And so, yeah, before YCC, I wasn't a good snorkeler, but now I have my own gear. So now I'm actually going out and I'm snorkeling and I'm, seeing all of these new things. And I'm like, this is really piquing my interest. Like I'm really getting excited about, science and marine science and, what this means. And so all of that was really impactful for me at an early age to be able to take advantage of that particular opportunity. But what I really want to stress here is that I'm fortunate enough to have been given this opportunity. A lot of youth don't get opportunities like this. They're not accessible, they don't know about them, or there are barriers to entry for them to get into these types of programs. So for me, again, very fortunate that I was able to take advantage of such an opportunity. And again, at a point of time in my life where I had lost some of that interest in science. So this was kind of able to help get me reinvigorated back into this field. So much so that I kind of felt it necessary to go to college and eventually pursue a couple of degrees to get a feel for what it's like to be a scientist. So I know some of this was kind of already said in my bio, but I went to the University of the Virgin Islands. I received both a Bachelor's of Science degree in biology, magna cum laude, and I got my master's degree in marine and environmental sciences. There's some stuff that happened in between there, but I'm not going to delve too much into that. But as you could see here on the slide, if you haven't guessed it by now, I'm a plant guy. I love plants. So I spent my master's thesis studying red mangroves, specifically the biogeochemistry of those mangroves. Very technical, very jargony, so I'm not going to get into all of that. But this was where I kind of really started to we get to see that passion again about why I love this work. And most people don't like plants. They don't talk, they don't do anything, they don't move, they just sit there. But for me, I love plants. They're amazing. They do all kinds of really cool things, especially mangroves. They provide ecosystem services that are so invaluable, especially for coastal communities like ours in the US Virgin Islands. But one of the other opportunities that I was able to take advantage of during my time in the master's program. So I was able to intern for the then, because it doesn't exist anymore, the then Coral Reef Discovery Week program, which I'm hoping this slide will transition to. So this was a 1-week free marine science-based program open to students in the high school level in the US Virgin Islands. And so it's only a week long. On average, there were maybe about 10, 15 students that would enroll in the program. And this used to take place before I was even a master's student. So the program has been in operation for maybe about 5-10 years before I interned. But this was a really good opportunity for me to kind of take all of the things that I learned along my journey to how I fell in love with science, package that and be able to educate the youth to get them reinvigorated to see what science is actually like. And so a lot of, what I did throughout the Coral Reef Discovery program, I kind of attribute to today, being able to, teach youth and to get them to see that light bulb. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just to get them to see that aha moment. I see why Mr. Forbes was talking about this. This makes so much sense now. So Coral Reef Discovery Week doesn't exist anymore. But, I am grateful for the many opportunities that program was able to provide me and all of the students that it's been able to benefit. There's a lot of forwarding going on. So I'm fast forwarding again. So I graduated from the university with my master's degree. I was hired by the university maybe about 3 months after to serve as the St. Thomas coordinator for the Virgin Islands Marine Advisory Service. A mouthful, but basically I do extension work. But, I was able to take everything I learned from the Coral Reef Discovery Week program and turn it into what is now the Youth Ocean Explorer Summer Program. So what used to be a 1-week program, it's now a 4-week program. So now we actually have more time to work with students, more time to actually get to incorporate and field test and try out all of these new things to get students invigorated and to love science. And so one of the really cool things that we get to do every year, so we ask the students to please, tell us or sketch what you think a scientist looks like. And, it's a little bit unfortunate, but, a lot of the students, a lot of their sketches portray what the popular media has depicted what a scientist looks like today. And that's not for the betterment, unfortunately. Usually the students will sketch a Caucasian male who has disheveled hair, wears glasses like me, wears a lab coat, and is probably mixing chemicals in a beaker. And again, not to say that that's wrong. I mean, there are scientists who do look like that, but not all scientists do. I'm a scientist. I don't wear lab coats. I don't mix chemicals. I might wear glasses and I might be a guy, but that stereotype doesn't apply to everyone. And so even so much so, like, thinking about where YOE has gone and where it's going to, the program has snowballed. I mean, I can't even begin to describe how much this program has just grown. So we've been able to take on partnerships with other programs through the National Science Foundation, specifically through the Seas Islands Alliance, another acronym, but supporting emerging aquatic scientists. And so through this program, we're able to get students to connect with underrepresented minorities who are STEM professionals who look just like those kids. I might be an underrepresented minority STEM professional, but I'm going to be honest, sometimes the kids do like to hear from other people. So as much as I love talking to them every day, it's great for them to hear from some other people. But I remember specifically back in 2018, we invited a guest speaker, Dr. Stacy Bihari, and her expertise at that time was studying shark research and conservation. And the minute Stacy started talking to the students, they picked up on her accent that she's from Trinidad and Tobago. Everybody was listening to the conversation. Everybody was paying attention. That was the one time that we had every single student actually paying attention to the Zoom session. And it was the one time where I had to pull the students away and say, hey, look, we're out of time. We got to tell, Stacy has to go. But that piece of connection, the fact that the students were able to see somebody who looked like them, that was so meaningful for them. And even though that may not have had much of an impact on my career journey, as I became a marine scientist, for a lot of other students, it is, and I had failed to mention this before, but in the US Virgin Islands, there are a lot of obstacles presented to our students who want to become a marine scientist. For one, marine science as a course, as a concept, it's not taught formally until the high school level. So if you've already lost interest by the time you got to middle school, marine science is not even a concept for you. Because and even though we live on an island or several islands which are surrounded by water, there's a large percentage of the population who cannot swim. And it's surprising, we live on an island, we're surrounded by water. What do you mean you can't swim? But it's due to socioeconomic reasons. It's because of cultural reasons. There's generational fears. I can't tell you how many times I've been to the beach and I've heard parents screaming and scolding their children. Oh, Johnny, you're too far, come back. And they're traumatizing that child. So they don't want to go back to the water ever again. And so when you have all of these barriers that prevent you from wanting to pursue a career in marine science, this is why YOE was developed, to help break down those barriers so that we could train the next generation of ocean scientists. And as you learn, I can talk forever about YOE and all the amazing things that this program has been able to accomplish. But that's just a little snippet of what we've been able to do through it's 5 years that we've been able to run this program so far. One of the things though that I do want to highlight, so our curriculum for the program again is modeled after the Masters in Marine and Environmental Sciences program also at UVI. So our students, although that curriculum is developed more for graduate level students, we tailor it for a younger audience. So we are teaching the students about marine and terrestrial ecology. They're learning about natural resource management and conservation. They're learning about or being provided with professional development opportunities. There is a statistics course. I'm not the best in statistics, so we're not really touching that area right now. But one of the cool things, and as you can see, like on this slide here, during week 2 of the program is the week we get to talk about plants. And so this is when I get to nerd out and like talk to all the kids about plants. So they get to plant mangroves, or do all kinds of, or do algae presses, or all kinds of cool things related to plants. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we've had to kind of modify the way we do things with the program. And so you can see here, this past summer, we had students out in the field identifying plants and trees that they walk past every day and would have no idea what these things are. And so what we're doing, and what I've realized as I have developed within this role of being a science communicator, is that you have to be an innovator. You have to be willing to not just think outside the box, but think like there is no box. You have to think like there's no boundaries. And so for us, I know a lot of people may think, oh, well, if you're going to use a smartphone, for example, in a classroom setting, that could be very distracting. But if it's done in a correct way, it could be a very impactful tool that could help with your science communication. So here we have our students out in the field, and they're using their smartphones and they're identifying plants. And again, this is something like almost every child nowadays has a smartphone. But now we're showing them that instead of just using your phone for social media or watching funny videos on TikTok, you can actually use your phone for science. We've even been able to take our students to the Great Barrier Reef by using their smartphones. So although Google Expeditions isn't a thing anymore, I guess the program has been since discontinued, we're now able to take our students through using virtual reality, the same smartphones that they have in their pockets. They can use those smartphones and now visit the Great Barrier Reef. I wish I had the funds to get everyone to go to the Great Barrier Reef, but we don't. But recounting back to my earlier, childhood days, in elementary school, there used to be these fads that would pop up every now and again. So in 1 month, it would be all the kids are into yo-yos. Then the next month, it would be all the kids are into marbles. And then the next month, all the kids are into trading Pokemon cards. But I had science teachers who actually went a step above and beyond and incorporated the yo-yos into the science lessons. So now you're taking something that the students are already actively engaged in, and you're framing that around the science. And that's innovation. That's how you get students involved. And so a lot has changed since when I was back in elementary school. We're not talking about yo-yos anymore. Now it's the smartphone. And so if you could find ways to harness this into your science communication, there's no reason why any child should fall out of the STEM pipeline anymore. There are ways that we can engage students to keep them interested in science. And I think this is one of the ways in which we can do that, is by using technology. So we have to think outside the box. So yes, we do a lot of terrestrial stuff with YOE, but we definitely do a lot of cool stuff underwater as well. And so here we have one of our students, Amara. She is, I don't even remember where she's at right now with her scuba diving training, but Mara is way above me. I'm only open water certified, and I got certified back in 2018. But Mara is like beyond advanced open water certified. She's now a college student at the University of the Virgin Islands studying marine science. And so that's one of the things that we do. So the students are able to complete the 4 weeks of the program, and then we provide them with the opportunity to get scuba certified if they want to. It's not, we don't force it upon them. But that is something that we recognize is a barrier to entry. Just getting certified alone could cost you anywhere between $300 to $600. That's not something that most of our students can afford, let alone to take on the cost to try and purchase your own scuba gear. I just bought my own scuba gear, and that was at least $1,000. So most of these students cannot afford that. So through our program, we've been able to help remove that barrier of cost. Don't even worry about that. Just go to the dive shop, show up, do the class, get scuba certified. We'll cover everything. We just want you to have fun, scuba dive, you know, to see, you know, students under the water scuba diving when we know that there's this generational fear of the ocean. This is so rewarding for me. We even have a 15-year-old on St. Croix who is rescue certified. She's like on the next cusp to being a dive master. And she's 15. So you could imagine how many doors are open for this student just because of her having this scuba training. Her father posts images and content of her on social media all the time about how she's diving to 100 feet and she's doing this. And she's one of those students that's out doing more diving than I do. But, you know, as it relates to Mara, going back to her story, so Mara is one of those students that we send to Florida every summer to participate in the Youth's Diving with a Purpose program. So she gets to spend her summers learning about coral restoration. So she's actually cleaning a coral tree here at the Biscayne National Park, excuse me, in Florida. And so she gets to do that in Florida. She gets to learn about coral restoration. On top of that, she gets to network with other Black marine scientists or Black scuba divers who look just like her. Then she gets to come back home and share all of those experiences with everyone that she knows. And so that, I think, has really been very influential, very impactful for YOE. Yes, the scuba diving is fun and great, you know, but just to be able to see these students, you know, transform over the course of these, and it's not just 4 weeks because we do things with the students all throughout the year. But, you know, I can recount the last time I actually went out and dove with the students. Like, that is such a rewarding experience. You know, I remember, you know, going through YOE, you know, we would talk to the students about marine invertebrates. And so we'd talk about, well, what's a cephalopod and what's a echinoderm? And so a lot of the students would be like, oh, you know, well, I went out snorkeling today and I saw an octopus. And I'd be like, okay, sure. You know, octopi are not super rare, but you need to have a trained eye to know how to look for them. And so the next day, the students would come back and they'd be like, yeah, I saw another octopus. And I'm like, I really don't think you did see an octopus. And then it wasn't until I went out and I went with the students and I'm like, oh, you actually did see an octopus. Like, there's octopi everywhere, you know? And so, you know, being able to see, you know, the students take everything that they've learned, you know, whether it be through a PowerPoint or a textbook, and now actually apply it in a real world setting, that's it for me. Like, I feel like I've accomplished something and it's such a rewarding experience. But, you know, I kind of do want to bring things back full circle in terms of like where we are right now. So one of the things that I do want to emphasize is that, you know, YOE is still kind of in its infancy stages. You know, we've only been doing this program for about 5 years. But to date, we have a number of students who've already graduated from high school and are now in college. So Mara is a perfect example of one of those students that's now in college studying marine science. Another one who I have featured here is Kaylin. And Kaylin messaged me maybe about a couple months ago to let me know how thankful she was for all of the things that she was afforded through YOE. She feels like she is light years ahead of everyone in her class because of everything she's been able to do through YOE. You know, we did a lot of laboratory exercises and she feels so prepared, you know, and this is what we want students to be able to feel. We know going to college that first year, it can be a struggle for a lot of students, but to see, you know, we've been able to prepare students to be well equipped to handle those stressors when they go into college and to see that they persist. You know, I'm waiting for that phone call when Kaylin says, I graduated college and guess what I'm doing? I'm a marine scientist, you know, like I'm waiting for that phone call. And I think that is just, that will seal the deal for me. But it's not just Kaylin that I'm proud of, you know, it's all the students. Throughout the 4 weeks, they do a lot of amazing things, but we host an amazing graduation ceremony. And this is the one time during the summer program where I get exceptionally emotional about everything. So we have the students prepare a little speech about what they learned, a reflection, and then we ask them to invite their parents or a family member. And it doesn't have to be a mom or dad or your auntie or uncle. It could be a friend. It could be a sibling, just somebody to be there to support you. And so when the students go up and they recite their speech, the reflection, that family member can then stand up and say something on behalf of the student. And so this is where we have parents saying things like, I cannot get my child to wake up on time to go to school. But for some reason, my child is up at 6 o'clock in the morning during the summer just to get ready to be ready for the YOE summer program. To hear things like that's amazing. Like, to show that YOE definitely has had an impact on a lot of these students. We've heard things like, you've turned my child into a tree hugger. Now my child has come home and we have to get rid of all the single-use plastic cutlery. We can't use plastic this and we can't use plastic that. And you're transforming my entire household, but this is for the better. It's unfortunate that we don't do a good enough job capturing a lot of that data when it comes in, because it is very valuable. But when I hear these things from the parents and they communicate with me after the program has already ended, it's just so amazing, to see that this program that started as a 1-week free program has evolved into something so phenomenal that's not just transformational for the students that's involved in the program, but also their family members. We have students who, and I'm laughing because we have a couple of siblings who are in the program right now. And, it's a rivalry between them. Oh, you just got certified to scuba dive? Oh, well, I want to do that too. And now the whole family is scuba certified. And, that's the kind of thing that we love seeing, to see that, this program is changing the way people not only see science, but the way they engage with the ocean, with nature, with the environment. This is really what YOE was meant to do. Now, I did say that I could talk forever and ever, and I'm pretty sure that I kind of went under time, but definitely I do want to emphasize here that, the thing for me here is that, YOE has been a very transformational experience. I would honestly say that if it weren't for YOE, I probably would have thrown in the towel a long time ago. I would have lost all interest in science. And I think I had pointed to this before, to be able to see, that light bulb in other people, I'm passing on that torch to other people. I'm igniting that spark for other people to be able to see themselves as scientists. That's why I'm still doing this line of work. That's why I'm still here. And I think the overall thing for me has been, and I like these quotes, it's more or less to be the change that you want to see in the world today. A lot of this didn't exist back then when I was a child. When I was growing up, most of these opportunities didn't exist. So to be in a position now where I can create these types of opportunities to inspire the next generation, I think I made the right decision to stick around to continue this line of work. And so with that, that's my presentation is over, but I am happy to answer any questions that the chat may have.
Thank you for your talk. And I just want to say, wow, what an incredible message, an incredible story of how you fell back into your love with science. Definitely a lot of what you've been saying, I can definitely resonate with, and I'm sure I'm not the only one here in the audience. Before we get started with our Q&A, I wanted to remind the audience that you can drop questions into the chat. And so with that, we'll get started with our first question. So how can people get involved or just generally support the work that you're doing?
It's a good question. So definitely there's the financial contributions, and everyone can't make financial contributions, but you can support students in the way of providing funding support to cover their registration costs for the program. We also do accept donations to be able to cover their scuba dive training. And again, not all of the students get scuba certified, but having that funding support so that the student doesn't have to worry about covering those costs on their own. But, we're always looking for Black scientists to talk to our students. That's what we're always looking for, more scientists to talk to our students. So if there are individuals who would like to talk to the younger generation and try to inspire them to want to pursue careers in science, definitely hit me up. I'm more than happy to see how we can arrange, something like that. I know with the pandemic, we've had to change a lot of the things that we do with the summer program, but we've definitely kept that piece in there because we know it's important. We definitely want to show our students that they can do science. It's not just limited to one particular race or gender. So yeah.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I wanted to ask a follow-up to that. How has COVID kind of changed this program? You had mentioned that you still had students going out in the field and doing research, but how did COVID affect the activities that they could do, that they were allowed to do, or just generally what they were able to do?
Yeah, and I'm actually like kicking myself out because I should have put a picture in there about this. So normally the program would operate Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. And I did the math, I don't remember, but it was over 100 hours that we would spend with the students over the 4 weeks. That got significantly cut down. So we ran a hybrid model this past summer. So Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we met via Zoom for an hour. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we met in person to do field activities for 3 hours. During the times that we weren't meeting with the students, we prepared these science take-home kits. And so these kits contained a Google Expedition cardboard headset. So you could do the VR stuff at home. They contained a fold scope microscope, which is a paper-based microscope. You don't need electricity to use it. It's really cheap, really affordable. And again, it involves that discovery and exploration. So the microscope is already built. All you have to do is, go outside, find something interesting, stick it under the what do you call it? Drawing a blank here. But you put it in the microscope and you can zoom in and see those things. Like I've looked at spiders, I've looked at leaves, you can see the individual cells. I mean, so many things. We even got into 3D printing and now we're printing, locally relevant, because you can't find, like if I wanted to find a parrotfish, which is a locally relevant species, like I can't find that online. So we've been able to 3D print a lot of these animals and actually show these students what they look like. So when they come out in the field with us, now they have an idea of what this actually looks like. And I think I'm knocking on wood because I feel like we're onto something, but I really do think kit science is the way to move forward, at least within this realm of COVID, because it doesn't seem like things are going to get that much better relatively soon. So we want to make sure that we're still engaging the students, but we felt like with the kits, that's been the best way to get them engaged. Because now they're able to do things at home when we're not sitting in front of a screen, and they can do it on their own time. So it's not like where they're being forced to do this within this time frame. They can do it whenever they want.
Wow, yeah, that's yeah, definitely kits. Yeah, as you're saying, keep them engaged, even though we can't always meet in person. That's such a great idea. So what would you say a typical day looks like for you?
So as I've transitioned into this role of being a science communicator, I've definitely taken on a lot more administrative type responsibilities. So while I do enjoy definitely spending a lot of time outdoors, most of it's now spent behind a screen, whether it be sending emails or writing grant proposals. But I am still very much in love with the ocean. I love mangroves. You saw that one photo with me, collecting data on our mangroves. So we're planting mangroves. So some days I'm out in the field planting mangroves. I haven't been out scuba diving in a while, but probably need to get back in the water. But generally, most of the work that I'm doing now, it's behind a screen, trying to prepare lesson plans, trying to create these science kits to get students engaged. Not all the fun stuff, but I do try to make time to include some of those fun things.
Awesome. So what would you say to students who are trying to get into the environmental field? Do you have any pieces of advice for people who are interested?
Oh, definitely not the first time I've been asked this question. So I know my journey is definitely not the standard for a lot of students, and it can vary. But for me, I think the most important thing is if you're interested in this field, if there are internship opportunities available for you, take advantage of those. I am definitely not a proponent for unpaid internships. I really try to make sure that, we provide internships that are paid. But that is like a great way to get invaluable experience, to get your feet wet, no pun intended, to be able to really see what it's like to be a scientist in this field. And if I may, with the YOE summer program, we provided an internship for students that were at least 16 years of age or older and have been advanced open water certified. And they're working at a local ocean park. And they're doing research with coral reef biologists studying a new emerging coral disease that we have in the territory that's wreaking havoc on a lot of our reefs. But these 16-year-olds are assisting scientists doing this type of work. Now they're actually getting certified to be on the task force to go out with the strike team and actually treating these disease corals. So when I say internship opportunities are invaluable, I mean it. They're very invaluable. They will open many doors for you. It's just finding those opportunities where they exist.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely finding them can be a challenge sometimes. I was curious for the YOE program, what age group or what age can students get involved?
So it's a multi-tiered approach. So the program is open to students that are in grades 7 to 12. And I think we do accept students that just recently graduated from the 6th grade and are now entering 7th. We have a lot of students that love to return every year, but we do want to make sure that we provide opportunities for new incoming students. So we set the cap on 3 years. That's the max for the number of years that they can be in the program. But we provide opportunities for them to come back and serve as a mentor. And so since they've already gone through the program and they know all the ins and outs, now they can, not chaperone, but to kind of lead some of the activities and guide some of the other students along this journey. So that's a way in which we're able to engage students beyond that 7th to 12th grade range. And this is open to undergraduate students. If you're a high school student and you were in the program and you want to come back and serve as a mentor, that's a possibility. Graduate students as well. I will say though, one of the things that we have gotten a little bit more adamant about was making sure that the program is exclusively open just for local Virgin Islanders. We don't have a staff of 20 to 50 people running around doing this, or literally it's myself and one other person. In addition to running a 9-to-5 job, it's a lot of work. So we're limited in personnel capacity. So for us right now, the cap is about 20 to 25 students that we can accept each year per island. And so with that, we really want to make sure that those spots are reserved for, students that live here. And it's not, that we're trying to, discriminate or anything like that. We do provide a lot of opportunities for the students all throughout the year. So I'm the lead coordinator for the international coastal cleanup efforts here in the territory. So we do the beach cleanups. We do mangrove plantings. We have a glass recycling program that just started. So we're recycling glass beverage bottles and turning it into sandbags. And these are opportunities that the students are able to get involved with. But if you don't live here and you're a statesider student, for example, and you take part in the program, after those 4 weeks, you're not here to take part in those things. So that would be a missed opportunity for those students. So not that I want to discourage, off non-Virgin Island residents to participate in the program. There are opportunities to participate outside of that. But as a student, it's mostly open just to Virgin Islanders.
Yeah, I was curious. You'd mentioned, other activities outside of just the summer session. Can you talk a little bit more about like what sort of things are included in that?
Definitely. So one of the things that we, through the National Science Foundation Seas Islands Alliance program, one of the things that we really, and this isn't me because I'm not the lead PI on that particular project, but one of the things that we incorporated through that program was this family piece, and so that family piece is connecting the students and their families to the science that we're doing every day. So we will do a shoreline walk, for example, during the day, and the students will look at all the different marine invertebrates. And then we invite the parents to come out at night when all the bigger things come out. And so we've had instances where there's octopi crawling on people's legs, there's lobsters crawling everywhere, there's giant pufferfish swimming through the water. And this is where, the students are like, Mom, Dad, like, this is what I see every day. And now you get to see it, and that's how we get the family involved in this learning process. So there's definitely that. I did want to point out too, like, we do charge a registration fee of about $400 for the program. But we provide scholarships for the students. Again, we really want to make sure that there really are no barriers for the students to get into this program. And it's not based on, financial need. If you're a student, you're local, you get a scholarship. But, the caveat is you have to do these community service opportunities, specifically with my department or other environmentally based organizations. And so, like I said, we have these glass crushers that pulverize glass bottles into sand. And so we were able to make sandbags and distribute those during hurricane season, which we thankfully just got out of. And so we're able to do that. We do beach cleanups. I know those aren't the most fun thing. Like, I'm kind of sick and tired of beach cleanups right now. But that's one of the ways in which we get the students involved. And, it's been so important, especially now during this time of the pandemic. A lot of these students, especially in high school, they need community service hours in order to graduate, and they haven't been able to get them. And so through these things that we're providing, normally it would be, oh, well, you get 3 hours for our beach cleanup. Well, I'll give you 10 because I know it's been hard to get those hours. So I want to make sure that these students are able to graduate on time. So I'm really putting myself out there to make sure that these students succeed. But we do, like I said, there's this scuba diving stuff. There's the new emerging coral disease, and the students are working on the task force to treat those coral diseases. There are a lot of other cool things that are still kind of like in the pipeline. But like I said, we engage the students all throughout the year. It's not a one and done program. We want to make sure that, and my ears are ringing because I know someone's telling me, hey, Howard, you should be mentioning this too. So YOE is a pathway program. So basically we start at the middle to high school age range. And then there are other folks that kind of take on the other intervention pathways. So there's an undergraduate component where the students who have maybe gone through YOE can then come to the university. And then they get to work alongside local and governmental agencies in internship opportunities. So we have students working with the Department of Planning and Natural Resources to, again, do stuff with this stony coral tissue loss disease. We have students working with NOAA, and all kinds of really cool things. And then beyond that, there's a bridge to the PhD program. So these students who go through this pathway can now see what it's like to get a PhD in marine science at Penn State, or I think UMCS is the other university that we partner with. And then the good part. So now there's the workforce fellow position, and that recently got instated. So now a student who's gone through that entire pathway, we want you to come back home. Why? Because there's a job waiting for you here. So I currently have a workforce fellow working alongside me to help fill that capacity need, to help with some of the tasks related to VIMAS and the stuff that we're doing. And so that has been so pivotal. And it's powerful, mostly because it's an islands alliance. So it's not just the US Virgin Islands. Puerto Rico is also involved. So is Guam. So there's a very lengthy time difference between us and Guam. But it's great for the students to be able to see other scientists in other island communities in Puerto Rico and Guam and connect with them as well. I know that was a mouthful, but that kind of gives you a synopsis, like YOE is part of something way much bigger.
No, that was great. It's so amazing that, like, yeah, as you say, you basically have a program at every step, every stage up until someone getting a job in sciences, which it's amazing. We had a member of the audience saying that this is the only summer program she's ever heard of that, there's people that look like her daughter, and that there's more, that we need a program like this in the continental US. Yeah, definitely. It's just so cool. So cool to see all the work that you were doing. So what would you say to people who feel like they're falling out of love with science? Do you have any advice?
That's a tough one. So for someone who might be losing interest in science, I would say don't give up just yet. A lot of things were different back then, but there are new ways to be engaged in science. I'm going to kid you not when I say this. So I partner also with the NOAA's Office of Ocean Exploration and Research. So we work with them through their Education Alliance partnership. And we had to provide some educational opportunities for teachers on hydrothermal events and seafloor mapping and now bioluminescence. And I was able to visit and explore a hydrothermal vent from my couch using my tablet. And I think that for me was like the most awe-inspiring thing I've ever done with science to date. No textbook, no scientific paper that I've ever read could have ever captivated me the way that visualization, virtual reality did for me. I love video games. So whenever I'm able to implement video games within the stuff that I'm doing through gamification, that does it for me. And games isn't the way for everyone. I get that, but, find ways to re-engage yourself with science, but using technology. I mean, we live in a day and age where technology is so easily accessible nowadays, at least, within the Western hemisphere. So if you have access, I encourage you. I mean, I know Google Expedition isn't up and running anymore, but on YouTube, there's a whole host of 360-degree videos that you can use. And, once you have the VR headset, you put that on, we have people who are like, oh my God, I actually feel like I'm underwater. People who've never gone swimming before, now they feel like they're underwater. This is how we bring the ocean to the classroom. And so if that's, a way in which you can get reinvigorated with STEM or science, I encourage people to do that. But if you recognize that science isn't for you, then it's okay to shut that door. Don't want to force people to do things that they don't want to do. For me, this is a labor of love. I love doing this, but can't say the same for everyone. So find your passion. I don't see this as work, to be honest. Like, I love doing what I do. So, once you find your passion, just run with it.
Definitely. Yes. Find your passion. I love that. One final question, which this might be a hard one, but can you tell us about your favorite experience with the ocean, if you have just one that you could pick?
Oh my gosh. That is a very okay, yeah. So I myself have not gone through the advanced open water scuba course yet, but I was invited to go out on the night dive with our students when they got to do that. I've always had a little bit of a fear of open water, and then to add diving at night, that was a lot for me. But to be able to scuba dive with my students in that environment, and to see some of the things that come out at night that you don't typically see during the day. We have these basket sea stars where they have arms everywhere. Like, I've never seen this before during the day, but to see them at night, that was amazing. And we took a lot of photos and a lot of video of that, and then to share those with a lot of the students who are also in the program, and they're like, really? You guys got to see that? I want to do this too, So I really think, for me, that was like, I would love to do another night dive. Just because, it was something new for me. And again, pointing back to, how science invigorated me as a child, again, it was all because of that exploration, that discovery. It was something new, and that night dive that was something new for me. I dove, during the day many times before, but to see something new at night, yeah, that's what did it for me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and the YOE program. It definitely seems like it is a great program. And it seems like you guys are doing really, really great stuff there. So thank you for sharing your story. And I'm going to turn it over now to Leslie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you have any questions about today's keynote, please follow Howard Forbes and Keiko Wilkins on their socials. Keiko can be found at Aquatic K2222 on IG and Twitter. That's Aquatic KAQUATICKAY 2222 on IG and Twitter. And Howard Forbes can be found on Instagram at GreyWolf162. That's GreyWolf162, and Howard G. Forbes on Facebook. If you like free stuff, the National Aquarium will be hosting a BIMS trivia based on our keynotes, and it's going to be on Saturday, December 4th. There will be a question from each keynote, so make sure you check out all of the keynotes on our YouTube. Make sure to follow Black and Marine Science on all of our socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more events this week. Up next, we have the Marine Science Career Panel from 4:30 to 5:30 today. So make sure you tune in. You really don't want to miss it, and I will see you there.